No, exactly.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. We are still waiting for our board chair, but for the sake of time, I know we've got a tight agenda today. I'd like to get started with some introductions. I'm going to wait on asking for introductions for our voting membership till the end. Hopefully by then, Willie will have joined us. But I see some new folks may be on today, so I think it'll be good to hear just name, who you are, where you're from, and then we'll get into voting membership after that. So Julie, I'm just going to do this based on my screen, and we'll maybe hold for the room until the end. Okay, so let's get started with Michael.
Morning, everyone. Michael Fernandez down in Bennington County, just sitting in for my board for the board members to make it today.
Thanks, Michael. Pam. Pam, if you're able to come off mute. All right, well, that's okay. If you're able to join, feel free to hop in when you're able. Let's see, Corey.
Good morning. I'm Corey Ross. I manage the Windham County Natural Resources Conservation District, and I'm one of 2 elected district manager representatives.
Thank you. Good morning, Corey. Lena.
Good morning. I'm Lena Smith, and I'm Grants and Finance Manager for VAC and NRCC.
Thank you, Lena. Jennifer.
Good morning, Jennifer Byrne. I'm a district manager of the White River NRCD.
Thanks. Good morning, Jennifer. Molly.
Good morning, Molly Varner, the district manager for the Grand Isle County NRCD.
Good morning, Molly. Trinity.
Good morning. My name is Trinity Stratford, and I'm a current intern with the White River NRCD.
Nice to meet you. Well, welcome. Emily Newmer.
Hello, Emily Newber. I'm the Agriculture Programs Manager with the CP Council.
Thanks, Emily. Megan.
Good morning. My name is Megan Gronick. I'm an intern with the White River Conservation District.
Glad you can join us. Katie Stiles.
Hi, Katie Stiles, District Manager for Rutland NRCD.
Good to see you, Katie. Daryl Kuhn.
Yes, hi, Daryl Kuhn with a Pulteney Meadoway.
Good to see you, Daryl. And then let's see, John, I believe today you would not be a voting member until we can get that appointed, but would you like to introduce yourself?
Right, I'm a board member of the Otter Creek Conservation District.
Thank you for joining. Good to see you. Julia, maybe we can, so sorry, Travis.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Travis Thomason, State Conservationist for USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, the NRCS. Good to be with you.
Thanks, Travis. All right, Julia, I have lost the video for the room. Oh, no, here it is. Okay. Would you like to introduce yourself, Julia, and then maybe go around with the members in the room?
Sure. Good morning, Julia King, Communications Manager for the Natural Resources Conservation Council. And I saw Pam went off mute, so if Pam wants to introduce herself.
Yes, I'm Pamela Stefanik, and I'm the manager for the Otter Creek Conservation District in Middlebury.
Thanks, Pam. And then I'll pass it to Marley.
I'm Marley Roop, Ag Water Quality with the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation.
And I'm Kate Willard. I'm a supervisor for the White River District.
Thank you both. And so Marley, I have you here as the voting member from ANR, and Kate, I have you here as the voting member from the Central Supervisory Union.
Correct. Yep.
Thanks. So then we'll go to Laura DePietro.
Hello, Laura DePietro, Agency of Ag Director, Water Quality.
Morning, Laura. And I do have you as the voting member from Agency of Ag. And let's see, let's go to Kathleen. Kathleen, are you able to come off mute?
Yeah. Hi, Kathleen Swanson from South Hero, Vermont. I'm a member of the Grand Isle County Natural Resources Conservation District, or supervisor.
And Kathleen was just appointed from her supervisory union, so she is now representing the Northwest. So welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you.
And then we'll go to Bill.
Bill Manor, I'm chair of the Ottaquechee NRCD and alternate to the Southeast Union.
Good morning, Bill. And let's go to Linda.
There we go. Sorry. Linda Corus, Chair of the Windham County Conservation District, President of the ACD, and the voting member for the, I believe, Southeast Supervisory Union to this board. Coming from sunny Whitingham, Vermont.
A lot of sunshine around today.
I know.
All right. Well, I know we're still waiting on Willie to join us and also Michelle. When they come in, we'll do introductions with them. We do actually have a quorum as of right now. We have 5 voting members. But before we get into the agenda, I would like Willie to be here. So I think before we get going, I'm just going to maybe make just a quick announcement. I am joining from home today. I've been having a few internet issues, but I'm hoping those will not derail the meeting. And if so, Julia is in the room to sort of keep things running. We have a couple items for action today. We have the meeting minutes, and then we have draft policy that I would ask for a vote on. The rest of the items are more report outs, and I'm hoping for ample time for discussion. I want to note that I am still, as discussed at the last board meeting, I am still looking for a time in July to meet because we have so many items for discussion and action. But I have not been able to find a good time where we have a quorum quite yet. So I'm going to be reaching back out to people to see if you can either fill in or update that July poll with the goal of meeting in July. So if you haven't filled out that poll yet, I'm going to drop the link in the chat, and you can even do that right now while we're waiting. I'm going to just grab that.
Somebody just showed up. Someone just showed up, so maybe it's
Okay.
Lily.
Well, fantastic. We'll give it a minute then. I'm going to step away for 1 second and I'll be right back. Okay. Good morning. All right, so I'm just dropping the doodle poll for the July meeting in the chat. If you haven't had the chance to fill that out, please feel free to do so. And Willie, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
It's quite all right. We just got done with a round of introductions. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, I think We do have a quorum, 5 members plus you, so 6 voting members today.
Okay. Hi, I'm Willie Nickerson. I'm the chair of this council, and I'm on the board of supervisors for Caledonia County Natural Resources Conservation District.
Well, great. Okay. Well, I think we're ready to get into the agenda. Thanks.
Okay, so we just did welcome and introductions. Thank you. Item 2 is review and approve May meeting minutes. And Claire, I think you said that some changes had already been suggested via email.
Yes. So I got a couple of corrections via email ahead of time. Linda pointed out that we do need to label this document as minutes up top. So we will be adding minutes up at the top of the first page. And there is a typo where we mentioned the 360 style review. It's currently written as 306. So we will make that update. And I think in the future, we're going to make a couple of stylistic changes. That does not require a formal amendment, but we'll be reorganizing some things to make it clearer for everyone in the future, things like bolding, motions, and yes, and removing the voting membership list up at the first page, because that's a little bit confusing since we already list the voting membership with the attendees and in other documents. So those 2 items are just for the future, but for today, we know that we need to label this document as minutes and make that 360 review correction. Are there any other corrections or issues that were noted? Oh, and I guess before we get into that, I'm sorry, Willie, I did want to note that I really appreciate getting corrections in advance. That does help us to sort of expedite making those changes.
I have a couple of questions. And you just mentioned the 360 review. I don't know what that is. And also, I thought on the version I read online that there was a request to verify a roll call vote, but I don't see it, and I might be missing it. But so anyway, I just wondered about those 2 things. Michelle just got here too.
Okay. I will.
I think Michelle requested the roll call vote verification. Maybe that happened, right, or maybe I'm missing it.
So
it's in there.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I'm seeing that the ones that are in front of us, Kate, are these minutes that are printed out were different than the ones that I read online.
Okay, I guess that's what I say.
It should be the same document that was online.
There's definitely missing text here for under review and approve February meeting minutes. This is the part that Kate's talking about.
Is it not this one?
No, because there was some explanation about why this was postponed. So there's a paragraph missing here. And then also when we get down to that 360 part that Claire was talking about, there's a paragraph missing here as well.
There was an little explanation, but I still don't know what a 360 review
It's the
is.
same PDF, so I'm not sure where the difference is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Maybe I can share my screen because I am also noticing a few differences here. So let me pull up the original document. I'll pull up the original document and share my screen to point out the changes that Linda had suggested.
We still talk about the minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I had initially drafted. The 306 style error, the typo there is on the bottom. It's the towards the bottom of page 3. And so that was one correction. And then there was, yes, let's go back up here. So up top here, on the top of page 1, we would add meeting minutes. And then I am seeing what you're saying, Willie, about this paragraph about Michelle Monroe raised a question about the minutes reflection of a roll call. And I don't see that in the version that was distributed. So I'm not entirely sure what happened in this case. So Linda, it did seem like you got the correct version.
Yeah, I printed off the minutes, I think from, I can't remember if it was from your email, Claire, or then when you had Julia send out the PDFs. I don't remember which version I printed out, but
I think this is the version I emailed out. So
I don't think so. I'm looking at the version Julia sent. Oh well. That's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, the version that the emailed version does have the
right.
discussion
They were
in it.
different.
Right.
Board minutes, attendees. Oh wait, I did.
So I would refer everyone to the email version that I sent out. That was the version we had intended for approval. I'm not sure what version ended up getting incorporated into the PDF online.
it's the same.
Willie, I don't know what we'd like to do in this case. I'm happy, I would ask for approval of the minutes, but if people need more time to review, I'm happy to accommodate that.
I think if we use the minutes that you sent out on June 22nd as an attachment, I think we should work from those minutes. Does everybody have those ones?
Those are the ones I reviewed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what was emailed ahead of time. So we should all have.
Good. So we're talking about change to add the word minutes to the title of that document and fix the typo at the bottom of page 2. Or is at the bottom of page 3?
Do you have a motion yet?
I'll make a motion to accept these minutes with those corrections of adding minutes to make sure that it's clear these are draft minutes and that it's a 360 review, not a 306 review.
Can you all also see my chat comment?
Yes, Laura. You said to make sure that Nita Gage is removed because she was no longer an employee of Agency of Ag, and put you in as a voting member with Mary Montour as attending.
Yeah, so just adding that because Nina wasn't at that meeting, I don't believe.
So this is
the minutes that were sent ahead of time do not have Nina's name in it. It has Laura as the voting member and Mary as the alternate.
Yeah,
so
I'm looking at the link stuff.
Yet
Maybe I got it
another
wrong.
older.
Okay.
I
suspect
apologize.
an older version accidentally got put online. So
it was an older version. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion.
Yes.
Does anybody want to make a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Marley.
A discussion question, Willie?
Yeah.
I was not at this meeting either, but Ethan Swift was there instead, and I have asked his opinion on these minutes, and he's fine with them, so I'm comfortable voting to approve them. But I did have one question towards the end under our, the section on the discussion about Act 250 and Act 181. There's a paragraph that says there was a lengthy discussion noting contention around this issue. I spoke with Ethan, so I got some of the details. I'm just wondering how others on this board feel about the fact that there really isn't any meat in here about what the issues were. I just wonder if we should have something in there in the minutes about what the contentious issues were. And I'm not sure Robert's rules whether we should or not, to be honest with you. So I'm just flagging it because it seemed leaner than the topic was the day of.
I had that question as well.
It's my understanding from any training I've had about minutes that the minutes should not only, but for the most part, reflect motions and maybe a little information around the topic just to put it in context. My experience has been that when someone tries to start, and it's a different world now with minutes being recorded or the meetings being recorded, but if you start trying to write what this person said or that person said, you get into he said, she said, and the person taking the minutes, it's somewhat interpretive. So it's, in my experience, these minutes with this just saying that there was a discussion with some contention is actually the way it should be done.
Then I totally defer to Linda because she's got a ton of experience in this. So if that's how people feel, absolutely fine with me.
I am happy to. Go ahead, Kate.
I'm okay with that. I don't think it needs to be he said, she said, whatever. But when I think when you make a statement that says there was contention, a lengthy discussion, it doesn't hurt to at least have some sort of reference to what the contention was. I'm just saying that for my benefit, because honestly, I don't remember. So, I mean, I could go back and look at the recording, I guess, and maybe that's the way it should be done. But it just seems like there's kind of an in-between. I don't know.
I think this might be maybe an issue with characterization as well. So I guess my approach with the minutes has been more in line with what Linda outlined. I used to be far more detailed, and I had requests over the years to pare down. And so sort of gotten to this point. I think the intention with that statement was to note that the Act 250 issue and Act 181 has been a politically hot topic and contentious in the public mindset, and that there were maybe some uncomfortable sort of feelings expressed during the meeting. But I don't think there was any, if I recall correctly, and we can go back and look, I don't recall that there was any major disagreement among the board members in discussion, so much as expressions of uncertainty and discomfort in various ways. So I didn't want to make it more than it was, but it was just to note that there was some, I guess, table setting around the issue itself, and how contentious it is statewide, and then acknowledge that there were some mixed feelings from the board. So I'm happy to also rephrase if there's something that can captures that a little bit better.
For the sake of time, Willie, I'm fine with us just moving on this unless you want to pursue it any further.
No, I mean, it was just sort of an observation on my part. And also, I have no idea what a 360 style review is. What is that?
I think 360 style review is pretty complicated, and if we want to review it another time,
that's fine.
I think that would be a good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I think we're moving on from that question about the details in the minutes. Is there any other discussion on minutes? No other discussion. I think we're ready to vote on the motion to approve these minutes with the two changes that have been described. I guess since there doesn't seem to be any contention here, I'll just go with, are there any opposed to this, to approving to the motion? I think you should figure out how long to wait in this hybrid environment. How long to wait to give people an opportunity to talk? And we go like a 10-second count. Okay, none opposed. The minutes are approved. All right, we're on to the next topic, which is I'm going to go with what's online rather than what's printed out. Update on draft. Yeah, these are a little different. Update on draft FY27 budget and personnel agreement.
Okay. This is going to be just an update. I will share my screen. I had aimed to get a full budget for approval for you at this meeting so that we could have that in advance of the start of the fiscal year. I don't have that ready. We are still waiting on some details about the personnel agreement. And that's the largest part of our budgets that isn't direct pass-through to districts. So we do have a couple of outstanding questions. I'm happy to talk through those. But just in context, most years we don't have an approved budget at the start of the fiscal year. That's not ideal. But last year, I believe we didn't approve our budget until August. And the year before that, it was similar, either August or September. So this is not out of keeping with how we've operated, but it is, I put this on the agenda because I had hoped to get you something today. And I think we are pretty far along, far enough that we can actually have a meaningful discussion. So let me share my screen. Okay. All right. Can you all see that memo?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
If you could enlarge it. Can you enlarge it at all?
I can. I'm working to.
Awesome.
Okay. Here we go.
Much better.
All right. Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. So, big picture overall, the council budget looks pretty similar. The draft council budget looks pretty similar to past years in terms of our revenue sources. There are a couple of differences that I'll talk through, but overall, we're looking at about $3.6 million in available revenue from open or pending grants. Most of that would be passed through to districts and subawards, and about $386,000 is available of our grants funding for council staffing. One thing that's new this year is that we're budgeting for interest income. We did change banks last year, and with that came much higher interest rates. And so we are projecting about $40,000 in interest income that would be unobligated and unrestricted in FY27. This is not currently budgeted. So you'll see that I have a $40,000 surplus in the budget. The Finance Committee discussed this, and because this is new, and because we don't quite have full budget details yet, the strategy that they discussed was to wait to budget this line item until we knew more about the final numbers for our grant funding. At that point, maybe mid-year fiscal year, the Finance Committee would consider recommendations on how to use this money, which could be anything from council administrative costs to establishing a fund to creating some kind of policy in place for our grants or for districts. So it's very open-ended right now, but just wanted to highlight that's new and why we have a budget surplus. And the total budget is a reduction from the current fiscal year. Almost all of that is accounted for by the consolidation of Ag CWIP funding under VACD. So we used to do pass-through funding to districts under Ag CWIP, but starting July 1st, that will happen under VACD. So the only Ag CWIP funding in the council budget is for council personnel and projects that are being done by council. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to our grants profile here. You'll see there are no no glaringly new or different grants that we'll be managing. It's pretty much the same as usual. We have several grants through the Department of Environmental Conservation, including our tactical basin planning grants, the design and implementation block grants, enhancement block grants, the Woody Buffer block grant, and yeah, those are our DEC grant awards. And then through Agency of Agriculture, we have our core services funding and our Ag CWIP funding. We do have a Lake Champlain Basin Program grant independently secured that goes into our Trees for Streams program that supports buffer plantings statewide. So you'll see there is one assumption in the budget right now, and that's for tactical basin planning. I don't have the final numbers for that yet. So what's represented here is just a placeholder based on past amounts. So that's one area of current uncertainty in our budget, but I do anticipate we will know those numbers in July. So we should have that firmed up pretty soon. And then you can sort of see how that gets distributed. I'm going to zoom out. I know this is a little bit small print, but this is the structure of our budget, high level, about where all this money would go. And you can see how staff are supported through under the various grants. Scrolling back up for personnel, right now we're budgeting for 2.6 full-time equivalent positions for council. One proposed change this year would be to bring my position fully under council. Right now it's split between council and VACD, but by sort of keeping this position a little bit more dedicated to council, I think that will maybe help with prioritization and time management across the entities, and allow for a little bit more focus on some of the projects that council is responsible for. What's below is pretty standard and pretty similar to how we've budgeted in the past. We do have 0.85 full-time equivalent for grants management. This represents DEC grants, primarily the enhancement grant funding, which is very time intensive. So currently that position is held by Lena. We have 50% of the communications manager time. That would be Julia. We have 15% of second grants and finance manager for Trees for Streams program, and other grants, and that is 0.15. And then we have 0.1 full-time equivalent for the VACD executive director. And we've direct budgeted this in the past to account for staff oversight as well as direct support for NRCC programs and grant management as needed. So really the biggest change here is moving my position to be fully under council. As I noted, this isn't final because right now our personnel agreement is held by council or by VACD. We do rely on inputs from them about budget and salary levels, and those have not been finalized yet. So we're hoping to have that very soon. But I do think what's budgeted here should accommodate whatever gets decided on the VACD side of things. So I will maybe end here and just share that screen and see if there's any questions or comments.
So, Claire, are we looking to approve this budget at this meeting, or are we trying to wait for a finalized budget for approval?
I was actually not going to ask for approval today because the personnel has some pretty big unknowns, but I guess I wanted to give the board opportunity to understand how our budget is put together and see if there's any glaring issues or problems that we can address now before it comes to the board for full approval. I would be aiming to try to do this in July.
Okay. So right now we're just looking for some discussion, some questions, and any clarifications. Okay.
Yeah, so exactly. I think we have some new board members, so just trying to give people the opportunity to ask questions and understand.
Lily, I have a question. With the your position, Claire, moving totally to council, I'm assuming, Michelle, you and I talked about this, that VACD will still be holding a supervisory role there, payroll will still be going through VACD, that NRCC will not need to be taking on any of those tasks specifically. The council board itself. Is that accurate?
I think that I would suggest that council have a conversation, perhaps when we approve the agreement, about how we want to handle. You know, right now council has input into into like the evaluation of Claire as a VACD employee who is providing services to council. But I think we might want to really get clear about what council's role will be and what VACD's role will be in the supervision, particularly of Claire. And then Claire is of course involved in supervising the other staff who work under the agreement. So I think that's where we should have a conversation just to really clarify roles and expectations, with Claire moving fully under this agreement.
Yep, I agree. I'm not sure today is the time to do that, but I do think we should have that conversation. Yes.
Yeah.
It does seem a little awkward for the position to be solely a council position, but still leaving it to VACD to do the work of supervisory and payroll and everything else. No, I'm not sure how council would take on payroll. I don't even want to go there. But at least discussing the involvement of the board.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to continue to be the fiscal agent and to provide, or essentially sort of a quasi fiscal agent for the purposes of payroll and benefits and those pieces, and then to provide the, essentially the staffing. But we should talk about, clarify what those roles will be.
We have a hand up, Kathleen.
I think that answers my question. My question is, what's the benefit of having Claire's salary completely under the council? And now that kind of answers it for me. Well, and I'll learn more as we go along.
Yeah, I have a similar.
Go for it, Willie. Sorry.
Yeah, I was wondering, is there an agreement between council and VACD for the provision of staff, and like maybe we could see that as part of this, because I haven't read it, and I'm sure other people who are new here.
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah, you can. Yes, there's an annual agreement, and so that would be something that you would approve at your next meeting. I think that those numbers look pretty solid in terms of the staff that would be under the agreement. It's just that this changes the agreement considerably because Claire will be moving out of being the director of operations for VACD. So she's held both titles prior to this. So she will be leaving behind VACD director of operations, which we are very sad about. But I think it will be easier for both organizations to have that clarity of role.
Yeah.
That Claire is responsible for council.
And that seems like a good place to review the supervision or input question as well. Sorry, Kate.
No, that's okay. So it seems like that agreement is going to will change if VACD is still providing sort of the payroll services, but not. It's different than providing staff services.
Well, it's still providing staff services because all of the staff are officially VACD employees. So Claire is officially a VACD employee, so she qualifies for all of the VACD benefits. Mm-hmm. And so, that Claire position might be different, but all the other staff are split between VACD and council. So
I don't think I knew that.
So all of the staff currently are split between the two organizations.
Well, I knew that, but I guess I didn't really exactly understand how that happened, or that they are actually VACD employees.
The state eliminated staffing for council decades ago. I think it may have been in the Douglas administration. So VACD provided that staff.
I'm sorry to jump in, but I'm just kind of like reviewing our timing on this meeting, and I don't know what everybody's commitments are.
Move on.
But we're behind on our scheduled time.
And we will be kicked out of this room at 10:30 promptly. So
let's move on.
So are there
thank you, everyone.
questions? Yeah. I just wanted to give the online crew an opportunity to ask questions. I guess since nobody raised their hand, there aren't any others.
I do want to thank Claire for the detail on the budget. It was very helpful, very easy to read. So thank you for that.
Of course, yeah. I mean, and this is part of why I'm introducing this now, is so that we can maybe have tee up these further conversations at our next meeting. So I will put a discussion of supervision on the agenda for the next meeting, along with the personnel agreement.
Okay, so that looks good. Looking forward to reading that, Claire. Next topic is draft appointment and representation policy.
I'll make a motion to approve this draft appointment and representation policy.
Thank you, Linda. Do we have a second on this motion?
I'll second.
Second, Kathleen. Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion or any changes anyone would like to make, or any questions on this policy?
A minor one, Willie. There's no page numbers. Let me see. Page 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's the bottom of page 4, stakeholder input. Very minor point. It says council may seek input from relevant stakeholders such as the districts, state of Vermont, NRCS, etc. NRCC includes those organizations itself, so it seems a little redundant to list it again. NRCC, which is already compiled with districts, state of Vermont, NRCS, UVM extension, doesn't seem like they would be requesting input from themselves. So it just seems a little redundant to have them in there. But like I said, minor. In the next paragraph as well, I wonder if we could discuss this a little. It says, unless prohibited by law, NRCC reserves the right to make appointments from the general public. I'm just curious if there had been any discussion on that in the past, or that's come up in some conversation, because that sentence surprised me. I wouldn't think we would be wanting to have appointments from the general public other than representatives from the organizations that make up council. Thoughts,
I can
Claire?
speak a little to that. Yeah. So I am happy to take that out, but I guess my thinking on that is that sometimes we might be appointed to something that is representing a specific constituency, like a specific subset of farmers, organic farmers, or something that we don't have represented from within our own membership, and that we might want to seek other types of representation. Now, that may defeat the purpose of having a council rep. So I don't really know if that would be something council would want to do ever, how likely that would be. I guess I was trying to think out, account for all possibilities, but if we are truly thinking about this as being from within our own membership, I'm happy to take that language out. But just looking at what's already happened with council appointments, most of the appointments are not being held by council board members. They're either district managers or the VACD executive director or me in some cases. And so we're not necessarily, none of us are a part of the council board. So we're sort of external membership already. And then this general public is sort of maybe just one step further along that same line. But I did include the language of saying that we would prefer, appointing people from within our own sort of ecosystem. I mean, this is why I'm presenting it to you. So if that language looks out of sync with what we think council representation should look like, I'm happy to make amendments.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from on this. It makes sense. I feel like the people who have been representing the boards are representing NRCC on other boards. District managers, Michelle, are representing the NRCC board and our staff of the organizations on the board. I guess I feel like if we are expecting to be on a board for which we have no one within council who has that expertise enough to support, we probably shouldn't be on that board. So I personally don't think this sentence is necessary. I'm not going to fall on my sword over taking it out, but just wanted to raise that I would rather we not ever be taking someone from the general public.
But what if we were to appoint like a retired, like a former board member with some expertise, or a retired employee with some expertise? You know, for example, if our wetlands expert retired, we might want to appoint her to a board that was focused on wetlands. And at that point, she would be a member of the general public, but she would still have had a previous relationship.
Good point. That's why I said I'm not going to die on a sword on this one. So if there are examples like that one that are valid, I'm okay with it. Yeah. Just flagging it.
Any other discussion on this?
Willie, I would just say that, so this is something I drafted to help clarify this process because it is not outlined in any existing policy or statute. That said, this is something I've drafted based on other example policies of this type. If the board approves this today, what I'd like to do is then submit this to the state AG's office just to make sure it's in alignment with other state policies. So I think what I'm asking for today is approval contingent on acceptance by the state AG's office.
I will change
Go ahead.
my motion to reflect that language.
I did have one other point I wanted to.
Do you want to make any changes, Marley, or is this just discussion?
This might be a change. Okay. Yes. Under appointee responsibilities, number 7, in the event the appointee is expected to serve in a role that requires official votes or actions, appointees will notify the board chair about the nature of the votes or official actions to be taken and seek input. I'm a little concerned that that is always possible. Mm-hmm. I think we need to give some flexibility to the appointee. Appointee will notify chair when possible about the nature of the votes, and otherwise it's just not practical. So I would suggest that word change.
That point is well taken. Yeah, we don't want to paralyze the ability of people to do their jobs. So I would accept that, and I don't know if we need an amendment to the motion.
Yeah, let's get an amendment.
Do you mind amending your motion, Linda, to just include that word change in number 7?
Nope, that's fine.
And we still.
I swear I'm done, Willie.
Okay. Do we still have a second for the amended motion?
Sure, I'll second it.
All right. Okay, I'm ready to call a vote on this. I don't see any other hands up or anybody looking to make any more comments. Which I'll also take as an indication that nobody is really against this. So I'll call for any opposed vote to this. And I'm going to give it a 10 count. Oh, I got a hand up, Jennifer. Well, I'm going to take that as an opposed. So.
But Jennifer's not voting.
No,
Oh.
I'm not on the board.
Oh, all right. Then we'll hold on a second, Jennifer. Okay, none opposed. Any abstain? No abstention. The motion passes with amendments. Jennifer, you do have your hand up. Is it on this topic, another topic?
Yeah, I would put it in the chat, but the chat's not working for me. Just a thought to some way to track when a vote or a decision is made on a board, basically on behalf of representing council, so that, in the future years, we're not voting against something that we voted for before, like somewhere to see the decisions that have ever been made by groups that council sits on would be really helpful, I think, for us to have consistency. Also on page 15 of the document in the agenda, it says Environmental Justice Advisory Committee. It should say council.
Those are good thoughts.
And I'm happy to make that as a technical correction. I don't know if it requires a vote. that name change.
We could certainly make that part of the preparation for a council meeting, is soliciting our representatives to other boards and asking if any votes have been made in the interim.
I think that's a really good suggestion, and we might try to draft some kind of template to make that easy and easy to read once compiled. So maybe Julia and I will work on that, and Jennifer we'll see if you have recommendations on that after this meeting.
All right. Good job, everybody. We are now on item 5, discussion of NRCC structure. And I believe we're about 9 minutes behind schedule.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again and maybe keep this high level. I wanted to explain a little bit about what this is and why this is coming to you. But mostly any action coming out of this would be for a future meeting. So every year, Council has a budget meeting with the Agency of Agriculture. In that meeting, we request our core services amount, but we also have, other discussions, updates about Council. And at our last meeting last year, Secretary Tebbets, there was some discussion about, how the Council budget is situated under the Agency of Ag budget, and maybe some other alternate, models that we could look to if we ever wanted to make changes to that situation or to other types of situations like our staffing or, other structural changes. And so Secretary Tebbets at that time, suggested that we look at these, a comparison of Council against other existing state entities. Some specific ones were suggested, which I tried to capture here, but then also broadened the search to some other types of boards and or agencies that are somewhat similar. So on the first page here, they're boards. I'm going to note that I don't think these are the best comparisons for Council, but I did include them because they generally deal with natural resources. They sometimes involve some of the same people, like Agency of Agriculture or ANR. And one of the through lines I do think that comes out of looking at the boards is that when there is a state board, there almost always is language in statute that identifies an agency or department that is responsible for the administration of that board. So that would mean agency staff and agency budget resources are then used to support the board in various ways, as well as, the basic state resources of state computer systems, networks, et cetera. So there's that language about, you can see it here sort of like, a Clean Water Board shall be attached to the Agency of Administration for administrative purposes. So I've tried to cite that language here. I think that's what's most relevant to the Council discussion. Though feel free to take a look through all of this. What I think ends up being more relevant for us is the discussion of state agencies, departments, and quasi-governmental entities. And the reason I think these are more most similar is because of their relationship to county scale or local government entities. Surprisingly, I think high level, my takeaway from this is that the Department of State's attorneys and sheriffs is actually most similar in terms of function to Council, even though it's not a natural resource focused agency or department. And that's because their role is to provide support and guidance to county level government functions. And so I'm happy to talk more about that in the future, but that's why they're included here. And then the Agency of Commerce and Community Development supports the RPCs in various ways. And then I have this, it just seems pretty random, but the Vermont Pension Investment Commission used to be housed under an agency and then got, about 5 years ago, transitioned to an independent commission. And so there's some precedent there for restructuring of state entities. And then I included VHCB because they're both, in the natural resource realm and agriculture realm, like we are. And then they represent a sort of quasi-governmental approach. My high-level takeaway is that this may not be the best reference for us because we already have VACD as a nonprofit. So I think for council, we are specifically a state entity, and it might be valuable in the future to preserve that state entity comparison or status for various reasons. But one reason is because that's how it's done in every other state, pretty much by and large. I'm looking to pull that information together a little more robustly. But yeah, I think what I'm distributing this in part for general knowledge, but in part because at a future meeting, either July or August, I'd like to have more of a conversation about council structure and if we feel we're at the point of making any specific recommendations about changes for council. Some issues we've run into over the past couple of years include things like, compliance with open meeting law and public records retention. The fact that we don't have a presence in a state building complicates things on our legal forms. And there's just all these sort of things that are pretty standard with being a state entity that we don't currently have. And there are various levels that we could recommend changes. From the very low level of let's just get in a state building and check that off, all the way up to potentially restructuring council to be to no longer be under either the Agency of Ag's budget or ANR's budget as it has been in the past. So talking about being fully independent. So there's a whole range of options in there, and I'd like the board to maybe think about that and some potential changes that we could make, because right now I very much am feeling sort of the strain of operating as a state entity without access to state resources or official, really feeling like we have an official place in state government. So that's why this is here. Again, I think, and I have not, this is all coming out of the conversation with Secretary Tebbetts last year. I think we would be looking to update the Agency of Agriculture in our budget meeting about the outcome of any conversation. And Laura, I know you've been in those meetings before, so if you have anything to add, let me know. But I'm hoping we can sort of use this as a way to think about how to make improvements to council going forward. So.
Yeah, nothing to add. I think it's just an inquiry, and you've been doing a lot over the last year, more, to kind of look at that. But it's an uphill battle, and it always has been. So commend your efforts.
So that's my
Seems like
update and overview. Happy to answer questions.
Yeah, I think this is seems like a complicated topic that I know that I don't feel like I have enough of the understanding of what it all means to really have an opinion on, that seems like a challenge to me. I don't know if that's how other people are feeling here too, but.
Oh, I think this is almost like a day-long discussion.
Right.
This is not.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering if there is a forum we need to set up where we can talk about the hard topics in here, the ones that you just mentioned and what they all mean in a longer setting or in a more informative setting.
I think if you want to get any sort of a decision or opinion, that you have to do that. I mean,
and I am happy to look for a time to do that. I think having that discussion would be really great, particularly with some new board members who haven't had the full history of council over years of evolution. So I'm happy to look for a time to do that.
Travis, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just excuse me, quick question. Claire, you mentioned you kind of did an assessment, or you mentioned other states, like how they're kind of situated. It might be helpful. I don't know. I've worked with other state conservation commissions It might be helpful if there are other states that are like Vermont in that sense. I know right now I'm also state conservationist in New Hampshire, and they have a conservation commission. They do have, it just works differently. And I was just curious if there are other states that might be helpful, for us to look at and see maybe some opportunities that might be out there for us. Just a thought.
I would really like to do that. There are a couple resources we already have. So Jennifer did a project a while ago to look at to compile all of the enabling legislation for agencies across the country. So we do have access to that statute language. And then we also, NASCA, the National Association of State Conservation Agencies, does a survey every couple of years of the states to ask about their structures. They're hoping to have their most recent survey data out in the fall. So I would be referencing that ideally. It talks about how they're funded, how they're structured, et cetera. So,
Very
but
cool.
yeah, also happy
Thanks.
to talk to New Hampshire.
All right. Well, yeah, let's do some scheduling or some brainstorming around how we can talk about this in more detail. Linda?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you're looking, in my mind, this would really want to be an in-person, multi-hour, if not all day meeting, and I would just request that it not happen in the summertime.
All right.
Enough.
Thank you. All right. We're not too far behind. I don't see anybody else jumping to talk. So let's move on to topic 6, agriculture staff guidance document and agricultural work group discussion, which I had asked Claire about this, and oh, you're back, Claire. So I'm happy to hand it back to you.
Yeah, so I'm actually probably going to hand it over to Emily, and Jennifer's also on the call and was heavily involved in this. But basically, one of the deliverables from our Ag CWIP agreement under council this past round has been a guidance document for staff training in the agricultural sector. Jennifer did a really heavy lift in helping to bring that together along with the Ag Advisory team. And so the document itself isn't quite ready to be shared, but we hope to give just like an overview of what that looks like, and then talk about the idea of establishing a working group under council after that. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily, if you're ready to present, Emily.
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can hear you. Oh, Linda
Okay.
shook her head no.
Oh,
Linda,
no.
can you hear
Maybe
her?
I just need to speak up a little bit. Okay,
Yep.
great. I'll project. So yeah, Claire had mentioned that this document is part of our deliverable under Ag CWIP. It is rather extensive. And so I'll share my screen a little bit and you guys can sort of get a preview, but we're hoping to have a more polished version for council to review at our next meeting in July. It is a guidance document. It is not something that districts have to adhere to. But the idea is that it will be a resource that brings together what it means to be an agricultural staff working for a conservation district in Vermont. So again, part of that is standard operating procedures for things like weather policy or soil sampling. How do we do these things? And so let's see if I'm able to share my screen here. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
So you can see we have a lot of comments. It's still very much in a draft form, but it's very extensive. So we have program areas, work functions. We go into our farm team model, working with NRCS, conservation planning. We talk about different state programs as well. And all of this, a lot of this information exists from the partners, but this is really diving into how conservation districts interface with these different things. What are our field visit procedures, etc. So it's quite long. A couple other things that are sort of either directly in the document or connected to the document, building out advancement or professional development. So giving district staff who have been in their role for a while some things to think about for further training, what they might be interested in pursuing expertise in, and so on. There's information. Let's see, there's a link to a survey that we've developed, which is to identify expertise of ag staff across the state and to be able to say, hey, if you have a question on Russell 2, call so-and-so. If you have a question on manure injection, call so-and-so. So really identifying who our experts are and being able to connect staff. So as you can see, like I said, very detailed. There are areas that we're still adding more and building out. And we envision, I'm just going to stop sharing because I don't want to be too overwhelming, but we envision this being a document that gets updated over time and builds out more of a standard protocol tying into a lot of our discussions about core services, particularly core agricultural services. What are we all striving to offer? What is the training path to ensure that all of the districts have qualified staff to offer those services? So again, not something that all districts are obligated to follow, but we would hope that most or all would follow sort of the guidance we're putting together in this document, because it is a way to, like I said, ensure that quality, make it easier on districts to bring new staff on board and support them through their professional development, and have partners really know what they can expect in terms of what skills we have to offer. So that's a big overview, and I think I don't know that we necessarily need official approval from council on this, but I think just any ideas, any feedback, things that folks would like to see from it that's not included. Again, we'll have a more formalized draft for our next meeting. Claire, did you want to add anything on?
No, I think that's a really good update. I wanted to give Jennifer the opportunity to weigh into if there's other things to add at this point. But as we noted, it's still in draft form, and once it's finalized, we would distribute to council. I don't know that it does need approval since it's a guidance document that is optional for sort of uptake with the districts. But if council wanted to approve it, that is very much, in your court, and I would sort of leave it to you. But this is more just a preview of what's under development, something exciting that's happening from the district level, and I think something that'll be really beneficial going forward. But Jennifer, do you have anything to add with the overview of this document?
Thanks. Just the training section at the bottom is we're having a meeting, I think next week, with the Ag Advisory Group to go into a little bit more detail around training. But that's where I see a lot of room to build out. I offer like the beginnings of like a fiscal year 27 training plan. But we want to really have two tracks, like one for this is the type of training that has to happen every year, and then one for really career advancement and what that means. So we're excited about that. And the document's been shared with some key partners like at NRCS and the state to review for accuracy. So I'm happy to have anybody look at it. But yeah, there's a lot of comments that we need to address over the next couple of days.
Yeah, so this is with our partners for review. So hopefully this will capture the full range of programming that districts engage with, and will be a document that can preserve the collective knowledge of districts, and help to standardize the services, the quality of services that districts provide across the state. So one recommendation, so in addition to producing this document, I'm sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, I had a couple questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my first question really is see, this is being produced under the current AgQuip agreement. Is this is this council staff time that's being used to develop this, or is this VACD staff time?
It's under the current council ag CWIP agreement.
So if we looked at, so with this proposed budget, I'm just trying to understand if any updating work was going to get built into that, would that move to VACD?
It moves to VACD because the staff person who staffs this committee will become a VACD. Will be moving to VACD. Is a VACD employee currently working under contract on this agreement for council, but will be doing the same work for.
I just would want to make sure I understood if this was a council work product or if this was a VACD work product, and how we present that to ourselves and to the rest of the board members, because this is the kind of thing that gets confusing for everybody.
It is a council work product until June 30th.
I do think we're bringing it to council because the intent of this guidance is to be, a council product, and that, any updates that will need to be made or whatever will happen with VACD staff time. Emily is the staff person who has been working on this, but a lot of the work has been done by the districts, and that just, the districts are funding participation in this ag advisory group. That's the group that's been working on this issue, mostly through Ag CWIP under council. So that's, again, sort of a lot of the time has been through the current Ag CWIP agreement. But we do have want to talk about how to continue this work in the future as part of, the next part of this conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Yeah, that does. It helps me anyway. I hope it helps other people. Before I get to you, Travis, I did have another question about when we would expect to be looking at a finalized version.
Yeah, we're planning on having this finalized for the next meeting, the next council meeting in July. I would say this is going to be a living document, so we anticipate updating it as new programs come on or as the way that we interact with programs changes. So it might be something that needs periodic review over time. But for this document and this sort of iteration where it's at now, we plan to have it cleaned up and finalized for the next meeting.
Thank you. Travis?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Willing team. Hey, I've had a chance to look at this. Jen and I and some of my team members met last week, and she did send this to us, and we think it's great, and we appreciate the opportunity to provide some feedback specifically on the NRCS stuff. I might just for a moment talk big picture, not long, but just kind of what I'm thinking. I've been here for about 4 years as state conservationist, and I think we've done a lot to really continue to grow the relationship with conservation districts. I think we've got locally led, right? Some really great things that we're doing there. I really applaud the effort to continue to strengthen that relationship. I would love at some point in time to see the districts adopt, every single one of them, adopt some kind of standard level of service that they provide. And here's why. Following something like this, NRCS this year will deliver almost $30 million in conservation program funds to producers in Vermont. It is a significant amount of funding that's available to producers. I really would promote a joint training with NRCS and the conservation districts, NRCD, VACD program where the conservation districts are training to a level of NRCS standards and specifications. My staff spends a ton of time training your staff to meet that standard. Because when they develop a conservation plan, we know that conservation plan and that product will be eligible, if you will, for those millions of dollars. I just want to make sure as we think about the future, that some states, I know out there, some, state commissions, conservation commissions, provide training to their staff, and they do it jointly with NRCS. So the level of training that they're doing enables and empowers producers to access all sorts of funding, whether it be state, NRCS, things like this. And so I think this is an awesome move toward that. I just really would like to continue that conversation so that any kind of standard expectation for conservation districts and their work with producers, especially in the ag world, always meet that NRCS standard so that it provides maximum opportunities for producers. So I'm all in. I'm happy to be involved. My only ask is at some point in time in the future, all conservation districts say that, yes, we will meet this minimum level of standard when we're working with ag producers, because it only helps the constituents and the people in your conservation district. So I'm all ears. I think it's a great move. Let's keep making it better.
All right, thank you, Travis. We'll keep thinking about that topic. We are
just
behind. Well, yeah, we're 10:20 now, so we've cut 5 minutes off the environmental justice update. And unless we're going to cut it out completely, I think we need to move to that topic. Okay, so let's move to our final topic.
Claire, the work group, I guess we'll talk about that time, like the continuing work group here.
Yeah, there's a further recommendation about creating a work group under council to continue the work of that, similar to what both Travis lined out potentially and also what's in the document that was shared. That discussion may need some more time. So Jennifer, I'm actually maybe going to ask you, would you prefer to do the EJ update or have that discussion now? Because, yeah.
Yeah. And Claire, I'm sorry, but I sent you a link to could you share my slides for me? I had a laptop disaster this morning.
Sure thing. I can share the slides and just note that for a future agenda item, we will loop back to the working group idea.
Oh, sorry. I need to grab.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure Claire is pulling them up. Thank you all. I'm Jennifer Byrne. I'm district manager for the White River NRCD again. And I'm currently council's rep to the Vermont Environmental Justice Advisory Council. And I'll just wait for the slides.
I'm sorry, I thought
Claire,
I was sharing. Is that not coming through?
No, we're seeing a mimic of everyone on Teams. It's like your view of everyone.
Do you see the slides now?
Nope, we're still seeing your view of Teams. Little inception.
Apologies. I'm so sorry. Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I am going to be pulling this up, but if you want to get going while I do that, feel free.
Maybe I can do it on my phone. I've never done it before on Teams, but do you all see my screen?
Yes.
You might want to rotate your phone so it appears landscape.
Yeah, it's
And
gonna be
then
tough.
we're still seeing like the tiny view of everyone on Teams in your top corner, which is blocking a view of the slides.
That is
Are we going to be able to do this justice?
Yeah, Jennifer, we're gonna have to leave this room in 7 minutes. Will you be able to do it in 7 minutes?
I can speak fast, yeah.
Oh, you know what? I found a different
unless
way to share my screen. I'm so sorry. Okay.
We
Is
can
that
see your
showing?
slides now. Yep.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
on slide 3.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, you can just go ahead and skip to the next one. So just a little background on why the environmental justice law matters in Vermont. It's truly one of the most significant government modernization efforts undertaken by the state in decades, in my opinion. The law is fundamentally about improving how government makes decisions, who participates in and benefits from those decisions, and how agencies coordinate with communities. And the work affects every covered agency and will influence permitting, planning, program delivery, funding decisions, and public participation for years to come. Next slide. So in 2022, some of the findings, the General Assembly found that environmental and human health burdens are not distributed equally in Vermont. Certain communities experience disproportionate environmental and public health impacts. Some communities face greater barriers to participation in government decision-making, and environmental justice requires both fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people. So the purpose of the law is to identify, reduce, and eliminate environmental health disparities, to improve the health and well-being of all Vermont residents, which sets the policy of the state of Vermont that no segment of the population should, because of its racial, cultural, or economic makeup, bear a disproportionate share of environmental burdens or be denied an equitable share of environmental benefits. Next slide. And so the EJ law really puts forward a vision for Vermont that everyone has access to clean air, clean water, healthy food, meaningful opportunities to participate, public investments and environmental benefits are distributed fairly, the government works collaboratively across agencies and with communities, and that the people most affected by decisions have a voice in shaping them. You can go to the next slide because I go into a little bit more about like what actually is in this law. The EJ Advisory Council, which is a community and stakeholder group, the Interagency Committee, which coordinates across 10 covered agencies. We share these major deliverables of developing an environmental justice mapping tool, developing a cumulative environmental burden rule, community engagement plans, changing and updating the EJ focused population definitions, creating these environmental benefits spending reports, and actually doing policy updates across all the agencies. My little schedule here is at the bottom so you can see how much we work on this. Basically one meeting per month of the full council. Half of those are joint meetings, and we do have this new buddy system that we're really excited about, and I'm partnered with actually 2 people, Abby Willard from AFM and Amy Redmond from Department of Health. I'm also on the Community Engagement Subcommittee, which I'm going to go into some details. Yeah, go ahead, you can click. This is the list of the Advisory Council members and the Interagency Committee. I'll just leave it there for a second so you can take it in. It's, I guess, relatively unprecedented to have all these agencies sitting around the table, once a month, really discussing how can they coordinate their programs to better serve, overburdened communities. Go ahead. So just to give you this is what we've done, and this is what is ongoing from the law. The councils were established, the core principles of community engagement were adopted in 2023. The initial benefit spending framework was developed. So that's a report that every agency has to deliver. And then the first baseline environmental spending reports were completed by the agencies. We have regular meetings. We're reviewing the environmental benefits reports and Title VI and civil rights complaint reports that are required by the law annually, reviewing the definitions and consulting with the covered agencies on how they're implementing their activities. But then also right now,
we're developing a community engagement plan guidance document that I think in about 2 slides, I'll go into details. Go ahead. So S325, which most people would recognize by now, but it's the edits to Act 250 largely, but it also edited the environmental justice law, some of the deadlines in the law. ANR suggested these changes to the deadlines, and you can see on here, it didn't change every deadline. For example, the community engagement plans are still required of every agency by July 1st, 2027. But it did significantly bump some of these deadlines. This is the second time the deadlines have been pushed back since its passage in 2021 or 2022. And yeah, but it was, recognizing staff capacity and also that some things have now become kind of out of order because of all the delays. So they wanted to recognize that really the mapping tool is necessary even to complete and talk about the cumulative burden rule. So that's why some of these changes happen. You can go to the next slide. Just to update you all on some of what was coming out of the council right at the end of the session. On May 5th, we were asked to provide testimony to the House Environment Committee on the principles of community engagement and the EJ law. I've got a link.
Jennifer, I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry. We've lost our room and we need to leave. So the people here in the room won't be able to hear the rest of your presentation right now. I guess that's all I can say. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's how the space is occupied right now.
We put this on the agenda for the July meeting. Would that work for you, Jennifer? Because this is an important topic that I think we would like to hear more about.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear it, but.
Are you able to reschedule, Jennifer?
Which, the opportunity to comment is open, but yeah, I could definitely join in July. I plan on it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Linda.
Second.
All those in favor?